So unprecedented cloud resilience, what is it? What does it take? All of these numbers, by the way, are available at the Zscaler website. You can come in and look at any time how the cloud is doing. But you've heard throughout the event, we're serving 7,000 organizations, about 50 million of their users, 300 billion transactions per day, right? And in certain days, we see peaks of 8 million transactions per second. This is truly scale. So how do you build a cloud of this size? What does it take? Well, first and foremost, it takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, right? Millions of man-hours of experience. But if you were to boil down all these efforts, really, it would be these 4 ingredients. We start with capacity. You have to have enough capacity to serve the 50 million plus users that connect to the cloud. But it's not just everyday capacity where users are coming and going. Very often you have scaling events, company all hands, you have tax season, you have holiday season, and so you have to have enough capacity to deal with these things. But there's also times when capacity disappears, cable cuts, ISP interruptions, so you have to have enough to support anything that the world throws at you. Once you're done with capacity, availability. People have to be able to get to the cloud. And don't forget, I say many times, Zscaler is not a destination. People go through us to get somewhere. So not only do people have to get to the cloud has to get to the destination, whether it's a Microsoft application or a workload or a customer's data center. Once availability is there, security is important. This whole event was about the product innovations in security that Zscaler is bringing to our customers. However, Zscaler itself is built as a zero trust platform. So security behind the scenes is also just as critical. And once you have all of this, we go to performance. So what is performance on a security cloud? Well, it's definitely not CPUs and servers. It's not your traditional, hyperscaler environment. What performance to us is really about user experience. And if you ask users, what is a good user experience of a security cloud? Well, really, they don't want to know that it even exists. So when the users don't know we're there, that's when we're doing a great job. So taking a step back, what's a day in the life of the world's largest security cloud? We run about 150 data centers worldwide. Those data centers receive over 250,000 updates per day, all of them that people basically don't notice them. We process 300 billion of our customers' transactions. Those transactions culminate in about 500 trillion metrics that we have to get insights from. And generally, all of this works great. But because we operate all over the world at this scale, there's always a problem somewhere. Now, if anybody has ever been to an airport, you can always find one delayed flight on the board, right? And airports serve a couple of hundred flights per day. Well, Zscaler, we have 300 billion flights per day that we have to figure out which one is delayed and how it's impacted, and specifically how the user impact or user experience is during these events, and then what to do about them. So the question is, how do we go about doing this? We started just like everybody else. We started looking at building monitoring and various telemetry, but what we found is that looking from the cloud to the world does not equal user experience. It shows you the health of the cloud, but it doesn't show you user experience. And so this is where Zscaler is truly unique. Many of you have heard, there we go. Many of you have heard about our ZDX product, Zscaler Digital Experience. At the core, what ZDX does is it collects metrics from millions and millions of users that are actively using the cloud. So relevant user experience merged with our view from the cloud gives us a unique ability to detect user performance impact problems anywhere in the world and anywhere they happen. Having this data is great. It's very important. But you also must be able to do something about it. And so what we realized a long time ago is that ensuring performance at every path is critical to ensure a good user experience. But to ensure performance at every path, you must have control over every path. This is part of the reason why Zscaler has built their own network, their own infrastructure, and we run our own code. Now, when you ask users, or when you ask most operators what happens, where the problem usually happens, they usually tell you it's right here, in the up direction. So The typical complaint we get is, I can't get to Zscaler. But remember, Zscaler is not a destination. There are problems sometimes in this area, but this is only 25% of the equation. The other 75% of the equation also must work. So the question is, how do we solve for the other 75%? And to answer this question, I would like to welcome Diana Vikutan.
Hi, Misha. Great to be here.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
So, Diana, incidents and outages, or outages specifically, are really easy to detect.
Oh.
You can tell when something is down. But I'm having a hard time even explaining what user performance is in words. How do you actually detect it in a cloud that runs 300 billion transactions per day?
Yes, in an incident, when something is completely down, it's actually easy to detect, even at our scale. But problems associated with user experience and performance are harder. And this is what we wanted to solve and figure out for our users to help them to round around those issues and restore performance. What you see here is our latest innovation, ZDX dashboard, that we use for cloud apps. It shows the performance overview at all our locations. And normally, it looks like this. Everything is great. There's no problems. Things starting to appear great. But Misha, it's only temporarily, right? Just like in news, if you follow technical or otherwise, there's always something's happening somewhere. So on March 21st, we detected the performance outage that was happening with our users in Singapore area.
So, OK, it looks like there's a problem in Singapore. That should be very easily defined and very easy to fix, right?
Not really. So usually, the problems like that will disappear, right? But sometimes we have to intervene. And before we do that, in this particular case, it actually was not resolving on its own. So what we first do is we need to look what happened prior to the incident for us to analyze the whole picture, right?
So let's dig in.
Yeah, so let's look at the Singapore just prior to incident. And this is how it looks like, right? So on your left, you see all the ISPs that our users use. In the middle, ISPs that Zscaler use. And all the way to the right are the Zscaler. So this is just for the Singapore itself. And it looks normal, right? There's no problems. But we're starting to notice that something was happening between two major ISP providers in Asia, Singtel and Telstra.
OK. So basically, what you're telling me is you have to look through 500 trillion transactions, or 500 trillion metrics, 300 billion transactions, millions of users, thousands of their ISPs, to get to know that something is wrong between something in Singapore between Singtel and Telstra. Why does it sound like there's something more to this?
Yeah, so like I said, automatically some of those issues go away, right? But sometimes we actually need to intervene. So in this case, the performance actually degraded even further. So our network and infrastructure team need to take action. But even looking at the connectivity between the two providers are not that simple, right? So we need to look even deeper and understand what all the connection points look like. So on this graph, you see all the connection points that exist between the two providers, only in the Singapore area alone. And then we see that there's a 3 unique paths between the Singtel and Telstra. 2 of them are OK, but 1 is impacted. So driven by AI and machine learning, and having this data at our fingertips allows us not only to observe, detect, but also remediate and know exactly what to do in a short period of time, which is the key of ensuring good user experience. So our networking team optimized the route by sending the impacted path through NTT, but leaving the unimpacted path through its original routes through Telstra, thus reducing any impact to the users. In this particular examples, all the routes were outside the user ability to change, but Zscaler was able to detect and remediate and ensure good user performance.
Wow, Diana, thank you. This is really powerful.
Thank you, Misha.
Thank you. So having this type of data is absolutely critical for decision making. And even a lot of this is remediated automatically. Giving this to operators with the granularity that we have it, that ZDX collects, is really important for them to solve these problems a lot faster. As you can see, the world is very complex, even at the level of Singapore.